Ahoy there. Welcome back to another episode of Vendaga Games. Today, we'll be sailing some uncharted waters into some dangerous territory full of monsters. We are going to be making a Kraken today. This is going to be a fun, intricate, and a little complicated project, but it's actually a lot of fun. Easy to get the materials. So, I hope you guys enjoy this project. Please like and subscribe if you do, but without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so this stuff called Baccarod really inspired me to do this project. I was using it at work one day and I thought, hey, this would make great material for Kraken tentacles. And so that's exactly what I did, making this video. I bought a couple different sizes for various projects, but I'm going to be using the big one here primarily for this Kraken project. I'm going to be taking segments of this that are about 8 inches long. I'm going to be making 2 cuts, so I'll have 2 of these pieces, and each of these pieces I'm going to split in half down the middle, starting on one corner down to the opposite corner, so that I end with each of these cuts having a wide side and a narrow side. So they're going to have like a tapering tentacle look to them once they're done. Kind of like that there, you'll see. And with one side being thinner and the other side being thicker, it'll sit well to a base and have the shape that you would expect a tentacle to have. So here I'm going to be trimming up the bottoms to give it more of a smooth and flat bottom. Doing it with all 4 of these. And then we're going to be trimming up the tips and making them come to a point. So they're less jagged as well, and getting the very tip and just slicing it off there so that it has a nice smooth look to it. Next we're going to be getting some wire, and there's a couple ways you can make the tentacles take the curving and coiling shape that you'd like them to be in. The one I'm going to try is going to be wire, and that's going to be cutting wire in segments to the length of the tentacles and snipping it, and then hot gluing it to the inside portion of the tentacle. There's another way you can curve the tentacles, and I'll kind of show you guys later on in the video as well. But I went with this method. It seemed the most simple at the time, but I was actually pretty happy with the way it turned out. So here I'm hot gluing the wire to the inside portion of the tentacle where the suckers are going to be at. So it kind of hides that wire a little bit, but also gives it that strength to hold the tentacle in shape once it's ready to mold. Once this glue dries though, it actually bends pretty well with the wire. It was actually a lot more forgiving than I expected it to be. It just needs some finagling and finesse, but once you mess around with it, it works. And it has a good shape to it that holds steady and stays where it's supposed to. Here we've got a couple different shapes, and some of them are coiled to grab miniatures, some are just coiling and writhing. Just a lot of really cool, exciting shapes to work with here. Next we're going to be gluing them to a wooden base, and I have a coin or a washer between the tentacle and the base to give it just a little bit extra weight. And then you can see I kind of hot glued and used the tip of the glue gun to kind of swirl around the glue a little bit to make it look like ripples and waves, as if this tentacle is just blasting out of the water really quickly. And here's the 4 of them all together. They're not tipping over, they're standing strong, and everything is looking good so far. Next, I'm taking a block of SPX foam. This usually comes in massive sheets, so I just have a little bit of excess block that I had from another project that I'm using to do this portion. This is going to be the head of the Kraken. So I'm getting my knife here and I'm just cutting it down and trimming it, chiseling away at all the corners and edges, just trying to get it as smooth and less blocky as possible. Some of it's going to be a little polygon looking, but we'll be able to fix that as we go along with the project, you'll see. In this next step, I ended up shaving off a little bit more of it just because I wasn't quite happy with the way it looked. and ended up trimming it in half. And the other half of that block we used, we're going to be making the head of the Kraken. So this is the big sack part of the body that the squids and octopuses usually have. So this will be our top of the head of the Kraken here. Got the shape figured out. It rests well on the base. It's good to glue. Before we do that, though, we're going to smooth it over with a foil ball just to kind of smooth off some of those curves and those jagged edges, just so that it has a more natural look to it. And then getting the hot glue on there quickly and pasting it so that it doesn't have time to dry before it's bonded. And getting the crack sealed up without fumbling around with it too much. Next, we're going to add some texture. Here I'm doing some vein-like textures on the back here as well. I thought it would look really cool to make it kind of just have these crazy vein-like markings and stuff on its body. Here we're using some of these wooden pegs, and we're going to place them for the eyes. These eyes are going to be slightly facing forward, slightly to the side. And once they're glued in, we're going to press them into that foam a little bit so they bond well. And then we're going to take some glue and we're going to just trace around the edges. All right, now we're going to be making more tentacles, 4 more, just the same way we did the ones earlier. These ones are going to be part of the Kraken's main body, and they have a different kind of hook to them. Instead of being flat, they're going to have an angle so that they attach to the base of the body. These ones as well are also getting wires attached to them, but also you'll see that here I cut some little grooves in the back end of the tentacle, and I glued them together and pinched it until they dried. It dried pretty quickly though, and that also helped give a nice curve to it. So there's another option if you guys want to go that route instead of the wire. You can try that too. Here I'm gluing and bonding them really well to the front of the Kraken. It's going to have 4 tentacles facing forward, doing each one at a time because this hot glue dries really quickly, and if you take too long to do the project, you end up having a big mess because you have to re-glue stuff. It's just better to do one piece at a time. So here all 4 of the tentacles are going on. These 2 kind of got a little overlapped here, and so I ended up separating them a little bit later. Luckily, the wires were really easy to work with, and I was able to reshape them a little bit. I'm going to turn this guy over and we're going to glue the underside of the tentacles. This is going to give it some more strength and durability, keep these tentacles from busting off the main body. A little bit more on the top, and then we're going to do some more of those vein-like textures as well, just to make it look really muscly and really just a lot more natural than just the polygon look that it had originally. It's coming along great. A little bit of a comparison here with the other tentacles. We're starting to make some progress. Here's the tedious fun part. This part, doing all 8 tentacles, took me almost 2 hours to do. Very painstaking, but these are beads that are wooden. And I think they have a glaze on them as well, but they actually paint and glue really nice. I was actually surprised at how well they worked. And here's the finished project after all that tedious work. You can even see I added some barb-like fins to the head of the Kraken to make it more menacing and angry looking. Now we're gonna put a base coat over this guy. Normally I like to do a black base coat, but for this project I decided to go with a light brown. I wanted some of that light brown to kind of shine through for a more natural coloration look. And so getting all the cracks and crevices in there, this coat is very important, and so I really wanted it to have a more natural coloration than just a straight black color underneath. Taking some time to paint all the details. You'll notice too that the texture and the design on the foam actually has a little bit of interesting grain to it, and it makes it look like skin, and so that works perfectly for the tentacles. Here's it with the base coat all done, and now we're ready to apply our olive green color, another more natural alternative color. I wanted this thing to look as organic as possible and not your typical greens and browns. I wanted this thing to really stand out. And the whole back ends of the tentacles we're going to paint in this green color. We're not going to be 100% worried about it covering it completely in green. As you can see, some of the brown is kind of showing through, which is the look I was wanting to go for. And it's looking great. It's coming along really well. Those suckers are painting really well too. Next, I decided to give this guy a little bit of splash of color. I thought a nice little like ring looking blue around the tentacles would kind of give it that blue ringed octopus kind of look. A little exotic, a little intimidating, a little bit colorful. I feel like with this project I wanted this Kraken to look a little flamboyant, a little colorful and exciting, but very deadly at the same time. So there's all the tentacles painted, and the barbs on top have also got tips of blue. Next is the eyes. This was a fun part. I really enjoyed this part. Traced the whited painted part with a black brush pen to kind of help it pop really well. And then the pupils were a lot of fun to do. I chose kind of an interesting eye shape for them as well. Something kind of more alien and otherworldly. I ended up being very happy with the way it looks. Then I went over the eyes with a silver metallic paint to kind of give it a very glossy sheen. And there you can see it showing up really well. Makes them look like eyes, which I was very happy with the effect that I got from that. Then I went over the very tips of the suckers with a tan color just to help those look a little more fleshy. And I was very happy with the results. It really helps those pop out and really stand out. Next, I made a base for the Kraken to give it some more support and help hold it down, keep it from flopping around and getting broken. So I used this very dense cardboard, cut it out, did some strength tests with it, make sure everything fits. I think we're good to go. Now the next part is a little tricky. Sometimes painting this cardboard can result in excessive warping, and so if you apply a light coloration to it, not too heavy on the paint, and bend it just a little bit, it's enough that it doesn't warp it completely too terribly, and you can bend it back flat the way you expected. Now that that is done, we're going to use the same blue color for the base of the tentacles. And then once that coat is on and dries, we're going to use a lighter blue to go around and trace over, just dab brushing just little specks of it here and there to give it some wave-like look to it, some color variation. Same thing on the base. We're going to be gluing the base to the Kraken and applying that same light blue color over the glue once it dries. And there it is, nice and solid. Finished glued, finished drying, it's ready to go. And now your Kraken is ready to terrorize the seas and sailors and terrify your players in your next campaign. Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment down below if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like to see me do in a future video. But that's all that we have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the project. Let me know down below if you guys plan on making this Kraken in addition to your collection. In the meantime, have yourselves a safe pumpkin day, and we'll see you guys soon. Until we meet again.